News Talk KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by CBD7. An announcement recently from Utah State University on a very unique partnership with an organization called Full Stack, offering an opportunity not just for students on campus, but for the community at large for tech-focused training academies and boot camps. Last week on KVNU's For the People program, Mogan Subramaniam, president of Full Stack Academy, was our guest. He said this partnership comes at the right time with the increasing technical demand.
This is really big, and we are very excited about this partnership. Yeah, essentially, there is a massive shift towards the tech economy. There is a massive demand for training amongst people who are curious about tech, who are absolutely sure that that's where they want their future to be. And then there's a massive demand among employers right now, especially as we're coming out of the recession.
Subramaniam said the academy grew out of a dire need for tech talent.
So Full Stack Academy has been around for almost a decade. We started out in New York City, and we came about because we were struggling to find enough good, high-quality software engineers. There simply wasn't a sufficient supply of tech talent, and we felt that it shouldn't be this hard, and so we were one of the original coding boot camps. And when we started out, it was just coding.
He said their students were basically working adults, people in their 20s to 50s, who had hit a point where they realized that is where they wanted to be in tech. They wanted to be software developers. Subramaniam said they were trying to learn on their own, but they needed high-quality guided instruction that is now offered by Full Stack Academy. The tech boot camps begin in 2022. Those interested can get more information at fullstackacademy.com. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather for tonight. Mostly clear, low in the low 30s, and then sunny around 61 tomorrow. Partly sunny, 60, 61 degrees on Saturday as well. And this afternoon, we've been as warm as 61 degrees, and it's 58 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather is brought to you by Berenson Caldwell. When the bills from your accident pile up, it's time for you to consider professional legal advice. It's time for you to get the Berenson Caldwell. Visit berensonlaw.com.
Trouble with pain, sleep, or anxiety? Want better health? Try CBD7, the CBD experts. You simply can't get this water-soluble CBD at grocery, convenience, or health food stores. Water-soluble CBD7 absorbs 15 times better and tastes great. CBD7 has the only clinically proven formula with real measurable results. Many feel better in minutes. CBD7 is not a drug and has no side effects. Other CBDs just can't do all that. Visit CBD7 today. Learn about CBD and try our best for free.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. Hazmat crews were called out to the University of Utah after reports of a spill at a building on campus. Crews from the Salt Lake City Fire Department responded to the Merrill Engineering Building Wednesday evening. KUTV reports multiple emergency vehicles were called out, including at least 3 fire trucks, an ambulance, and other personnel. After conducting a preliminary investigation, hazmat teams determined a very small amount of solid material was spilled. People in the lab were able to clean and dispose of the material using pre-established protocols for similar situations. Details about the kind of material that was spilled were not immediately available. Officials said hazmat responded out of an abundance of caution. Battalion Chief Dave Chugg said one of the faculty members met crews outside, told them what had happened, and that he thought that water had come in contact with one of the substances inside. The faculty member followed protocol. He had shut everything off, dialed 911, and initiated evacuation of the building. By 8:30 p.m., officials were beginning to clear the scene. There were no reports of injuries. And Salt Lake City has been nominated Best Ski Town in the United States by USA Today in their 2021 Travel Awards. According to a release from Visit Salt Lake, the city was selected by an expert panel. The contest criteria includes proximity to skiing, city atmosphere, and amenities such as restaurants, entertainments, and bars. All Utahns are encouraged to vote for Salt Lake. Voting ends Monday, November 22nd, and winners will be announced on Friday, December 3rd. Voters have 4 weeks to narrow the list of 18 cities and towns down to the 10 best. Voters can vote once per day. The competition is heavy with Colorado locations such as Aspen, Colorado, Breckenridge, and Snowmass, Colorado. Also Bozeman, Montana, Red River, New Mexico, Carson Valley, Nevada, and many more. The nomination of Salt Lake should not surprise locals who have unprecedented access to the snow, what's billed as the greatest snow on Earth. Downtown is just a 35-minute drive to Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons, where Alta, Snowbird, Brighton, and Solitude have their slopes. Each average 500 inches of Utah's famous powder each winter. KVNU News Time is 5:11. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
This is Dr. Red, chiropractic physician with Red River Health and Wellness. Are you suffering with fatigue, brain fog, headaches, intestinal issues, weight gain, and you haven't been able to find any answers?
I was struggling with constantly being hot, struggling with not sleeping, being able to fall asleep, stay asleep, or even wake up the next morning. I had very high levels of inflammation and memory loss. Memory loss was the scariest part.
Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
The sleep improved, my memory's coming back. Every time I remember something, I still get really excited. I go walking every morning now, which I've never done before. I've always really wanted to be that type of person that wakes up early enough to enjoy the sunrise. I get to do that every morning now.
Our goal is to teach you and educate you so you know how to manage your condition a lot more effectively and you know what to do and what not to do for the rest of your life. With our satisfaction guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Call for a free consultation or visit our website at redriverhealthandwellness.com.
Call Red River today.
Charles is dying from COVID-19, not because he has the disease, but because he has to travel 95 miles in an ambulance to the nearest open ICU bed. Yes, his local ICU was just minutes away, but it's full of COVID patients, nearly all of whom haven't been vaccinated. So, if you think you're not hurting anyone by skipping the vaccine, think again. Please, get vaccinated. Find a location at coronavirus.utah.gov.
We are there in your community. Small business owners, mechanics, police officers, homemakers. And we are there serving our nation in the Air Force Reserve. When medical emergencies arise, in cybersecurity, when natural disasters happen, we are there in space. We are Reserve Citizen Airmen, and we are there with over 180 different jobs to serve your country. Air Force Reserve.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Hour 2 of today's show. It is a beautiful Thursday afternoon, October 28th. I'm Jason Williams, Bill Walter in the studio. Thanks again to Charlie Schill joining us in Hour 1 to talk theater, arts, and entertainment every Thursday at 4 here on For the People. Tomorrow on the program, just a quick reminder, only 1 hour of For the People due to the Logan High game starting right at 5 o'clock here on KVNU with Al Lewis calling the game. That will begin at 5, so we'll wrap up at 5 to make room for that, meaning the For the People movie show will happen an hour earlier. Instead of 5 to 6, Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com will be joining us 4 to 5 tomorrow, and we're going to spend the entire hour talking about Dune. It is probably the most notable movie in theaters. It's good, it's loud, it's action-packed, and it has some weird moments, like the previous versions of Dune always have. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow on the movie show. Kicking off Hour 2, I wanted to in light of some recent headlines this week regarding legislative action and the upcoming legislative session and proposed bills and big topics that might be debated and discussed, I wanted to jump back to sort of set the stage for a conversation about those measures that are coming in January during the legislative session. Jump back to a portion of the direct link with Governor Spencer Cox event that was broadcast here on our airwaves a couple of weeks ago on a Tuesday evening. He does these about every other month, and it's an opportunity for rural Utah to get a big audience with the governor, get a chance to talk to the governor, ask questions of the governor that aren't Salt Lake City centric. So it's a really cool thing the governor does, and it's, I dare say, much better than Speak to the Governor, which is very Salt Lake City centric. During the last direct link with Governor Cox event that we were broadcasting here, there was a question from a listener that the short version, it was a long question with a big setup. The short version is, can the state do more to help seniors? This individual talked about people he knows in their 60s and 70s who are living in poverty despite Social Security, despite retirement investments they may have. It's just not enough, especially as life goes on. Sometimes the money starts to run short. And he told a story about an elderly woman that he knows personally who didn't have enough food to eat and didn't want to burden her children, her grandchildren, or her family by letting them know about that. It became a big story in his neighborhood, and the neighborhood all stepped up to help out. But the question was, and again, this relates to some news today about upcoming legislation. The question for the governor is there more the state can and should be doing to help the elderly here in Utah? Here's what Governor Cox had to say.
It is very difficult for people who live on a fixed income, like the neighbors that you're talking about. And so we worked closely with the legislature last year to do some things to help improve life for our senior citizens. One of those is that we significantly reduced the taxes on Social Security. So we were a state that did require seniors to pay taxes on Social Security, and so we made that change. Just that change alone was about an $18 million state income tax, and that $18 million goes right into the pockets of Utah senior citizens. So $18 million for senior citizens last year. We also do have several programs that help seniors, and I don't have these right in front of me, but every senior citizen center in the state has those. We can where they're able to get help with their heating. They're able to get help with their telephone bills. And they can actually just call, if anybody's listening, you can call 211 and they will connect you. 211 is the number to be connected to all of these different services. There's a circuit breaker program as well to provide general property tax relief to certain taxpayers who are low income and who have household incomes below a statutory mandated level, who own their place of residence. Some renters may apply as well. There is a renter's credit, and so any person providing their own financial support who is 66 years of age, a surviving spouse, regardless of age, there's a whole bunch of ways that these people may qualify, and so and again, that is to reduce their property tax. So I would encourage, if you know people like that, again, call 211 or check with your county assessor. The county assessor's office will have information, and sometimes those forms are right online where you can apply for that circuit breaker program.
Governor, I want to follow up on that. This is a question that I get quite often about taxing Social Security recipients here in the state of Utah. You mentioned we've reduced it. Can we just totally eliminate it? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's possible. It's something we talked about last year. When I say we reduced it, basically The argument was that, everybody gets Social Security, and that the Gail Millers of the world, the Mitt Romneys of the world, they're perfectly fine to pay taxes on their Social Security after a certain amount, right? And so what we did was we significantly raised the state tax credit, so that the first $50,000 of Social Security isn't being taxed, which is what most Utahns will fall under that. And so those that are above that threshold would still pay taxes on that. So we got close. We definitely took a step in the right direction, and I would support continuing to move that needle.
All right, Governor.
That was, again, Direct Link with Governor Cox, broadcast here on our airwaves a couple of weeks ago. You can listen to the entire episode of Direct Link with Governor Cox for the month of October on our podcast channel at Podcastics. Simply search for KVNU's For the People. You can even subscribe so you never miss an episode and listen to that entire episode of Direct Link with Governor Cox. Again, flashing back to that in order to set the stage for some news today. News that a lawmaker here in Utah is going to be unveiling soon the language of a package of bills, he said, are geared towards seniors, the elderly here in Utah, caregiver support, aging adult services, all kinds of things like that. Part of it, he says, is just a hope of raising awareness that these services exist. He said that's one of the major problems, is that many seniors in Utah don't know about things like the Division of Aging and Adult Services, a state agency that specializes in helping those over the age of 65, connecting them with existing services, helping them with everything from nutritional aid to transportation, connecting them with local organizations, even nonprofits outside of the state realm that are offering services in their area that can be a huge improvement to quality of life. But he said we need to do more, this lawmaker. In his announcement today, Representative Peterson said we need to realize that there's been an oversight. He said that large families and so many young children in schools and in our neighborhoods and it creates an imbalance of focus, he said. He said that the demands of the state budget and that keeping the lights on, providing critical services, funding education, all of that, it tends to track the legislature's mind as a collective body towards younger demographics. And he said that's just the nature of the business of the state because there's so much growth. We're growing so fast. It puts a lot of demand on everything from the state budget to our education system to even transportation issues, as removed from age-related issues as that might seem. So he said because of that, we've let some other things go. And he wants to talk more about what seniors in Utah need. He wants to talk more about making sure there are no seniors in Utah going hungry or sitting alone in their home without much needed and sometimes life-saving care. He said he wants to talk more. He wants to get the legislature to talk more about how they can simplify. You may have seen this report, a recent experiment done where lawmakers were asked to sit down and fill out the Medicare sheets. The forms a person has to fill out to apply for Medicare as they hit 65, they were asked to sit down and fill out Medicare and Medicaid forms. And they were shocked. Lawmakers were shocked at how complicated and difficult these forms were. So Representative Peterson said, we need to talk about this. And so he wants this to be a part of the upcoming legislative session, a discussion on the needs and challenges of seniors in Utah and what the state is already doing, but maybe no one knows about, but also what more the state could be doing to connect people with services, to provide additional services, to make sure seniors aren't going hungry, to make it easier for seniors to do things like apply for Medicare or get on Medicaid, to navigate the Social Security process and all of that. He said he feels that growth and our traditionally very young demographics have caused the legislature to focus more on the needs of those 65 and under. And he said this session he hopes to start a conversation about the needs of those 65 and older, again saying he feels they've taken a back seat, understandably, to some of the current demands based on growth. and growing population here in Utah. Check it out. I've linked to the legislation that he's provided so far. Not a lot of language in the bills yet, but it gives you an idea of where he's going with this. And he's hoping that seniors throughout the state will provide some feedback and input between now and the legislative session. And he's created a contact information source. His own cell phone number, of course, is on the state legislative site. But he's created a site for people to go in and provide public comment for his legislation ahead of the session that will kick off at the end of January 2022. I've linked to that on our Facebook page. And we'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People right after this.
When the bills from your accident pile up, it's time for you to consider professional legal counsel. Get the Berenson and Caldwell.
My name's Keenan Prescott. Berenson and Caldwell helped me manage a lot of different aspects to a complicated case. Someone hit me head on with their car, and I've had a lot of different legal things surrounding that, like my health insurance broke their contract with me. My medical bills would not have been paid without Berenson and Caldwell. They've been really good at explaining things and helping me understand their process.
Visit BerensonLaw.com to instantly connect and receive a free case review of your injury. BerensonLaw.com.
When our children and grandchildren graduate from college, many are strapped with debt, but they still look forward to owning their own home. Proposition 1 will give them the opportunity to enjoy the benefits of home ownership by providing an attainable housing product in Providence. Let's help people realize the dream of home ownership. Vote for Proposition 1, paid for by Complete Vineyard for Providence.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Bit of a programming disruption, but I know a lot of people have been wanting to hear about what's happening with the redistricting commission. The independent commission that was created by voters via ballot initiative has been working hard. In the news a bit this week with the abrupt and somewhat huffy resignation of former Congressman Rob Bishop, who had been appointed to the commission by the Republican Speaker of the House, Brad Wilson. And so that kind of dominated the news this week. But behind the scenes of that story, which is thankfully now faded, no offense to former Congressman Bishop, of course, but that was a sensational headline. Everybody pounced on it. I get it. Now they're back to where they can either ignore the work of the commission or write stories about it. Hopefully, we see stories about it because on Monday, the commission will present its recommended maps, a choice of maps. I don't know how many, maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 maps. And the legislature, under this voter-created statute, law created by voters, is to then accept those recommendations and factor them into their final decision. Whether that happens or not, the Speaker of the House has said some things since Bishop's resignation that have a lot of people, I think, understandably thinking this is already decided. They already know what map they're going with. It doesn't matter what public input they get. It doesn't matter. And the legislature, to be honest, has set, in the last year especially, kind of a track record of acting that way. So it's an understandable, if cynical, approach. I'm holding out hope that they will recognize that this commission has worked very hard for months, including a public tour of public hearings, including hours and hours and hours of poring over the data. None of these people are being paid. At most, they're getting a travel stipend for their gas, at most. And they're going to present at 1 o'clock on Monday. We were hoping to be able to, and it's our fault, not his, really. Schedules just didn't allow. We're hoping to have Senator Hilliard join us today to talk about, as they finish their work and get prepped for their presentation to the full legislature, or to the legislative committee on Monday. We're hoping to get Senator Hilliard's take on the news this week about Bishop, the news or the work they've been doing. And timing's just not going to allow it. And again, tomorrow we're a short show. Logan High football starting at 5, movie show at 4 instead of 5, so we can get that in. Talk about Dune because we're getting a lot of questions from listeners about that. Should I go see it? Should I go see it? We'll do that tomorrow, but that leaves us with kind of short on time to make a sit down with Senator Hilliard happening. So just talk to former State Senator Lyle Hilliard. And so here's what we'll do. Tomorrow morning, he'll be speaking with the CashValleyDaily.com news team. And so they'll have some reports to provide at CashValleyDaily.com and maybe even some audio you might hear during the news breaks here on KVNU. And the next week, after the presentation has been given to the Legislative Committee by this independent commission created by voters, on which former State Senator Lyle Hilliard sits, then next week he'll join us after that presentation's done on Monday. He'll join us on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday next week, and we'll have a good full hour. We can talk about what he learned, what redistricting can and should look like, some of the challenges they faced with late data from the census, and other challenges as far as this being the first time an independent commission has existed here in Utah. And then from there, we'll see what happens, what map the legislature finally decides on when it comes to the congressional boundaries. That's where the real debate gets fiery, and what the changes, if any, to Cache Valley House and Senate, state House and Senate districts and school districts, if any changes, what those changes might be. So we'll know all of that when the Legislative Committee makes its decision. In between then, the presentation on Monday and the Legislative Committee's final decision, which is expected within the first couple of weeks of November, we'll have plenty of time to talk about what the commission did, what former State Senator Hilliard feels should be the future of that commission. Remember, this is a guy that spent decades in the legislature. He's seen it from that side of things, and he is fully aware that the legislature, by constitutional mandate, calls the final shot. They make the final decision on what the federal delegate congressional boundary looks like, congressional map looks like. He's been there when they had debates over the wagon wheel versus the donut map. The donut map would have left Salt Lake City intact, but would have created a district that was guaranteed to be a Democrat for the foreseeable future because of the politics of Salt Lake City and county. The legislature instead decided to go with the wagon wheel approach 10 years ago, which basically carved Salt Lake City up into 3 different districts. And they came up with a pretty weak excuse for that. The real reason is to avoid there being a permanently held by a Democrat congressional district coming out of Utah, second reddest state in the nation. But they can't say that because that's against what redistricting is supposed to be about, so they come up with these excuses. The excuse is that there should be an urban-rural mix in every congressional district. I don't get the reasoning on that. I also don't think that this stuff really hurts or helps as much as people think. Maybe I'm being naive about that. Either way, there's going to be one heck of a debate about all of this for the next couple of weeks. So next week, instead of this, we'll get on the bright side. We'll have more time because their work as a commission will be done. So we'll have more time with former State Senator Lyle Hilliard here in the studio. We'll do maybe a full hour, if possible, next Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and kind of recap the last several months of work by this commission. And the legislative committee at that point will take over and begin its work. So it's going to be interesting, to say the least. It's going to get heated, to say the least. And again, we won't be able to speak with former Senator Hilliard this week on the show, but he will be in touch with the CashValleyDaily.com news team tomorrow morning, so we'll have some reaction to him on Bishop's resignation and the work of the commission and more. So keep your eyes peeled for that at CashValleyDaily.com and during the news breaks here tomorrow on KVNU. Until then, though, other than that, hold on and we'll have a chance to sit down and talk with this in greater detail with Lyle Hilliard sometime next week. So, and again, part of this is that we're short this week. Again, tomorrow on the show, just a reminder, Logan High kicking off at 5 o'clock. So that is going to be broadcast here on KVNU as well as on 104.5 The Ranch, as well as live video streaming. Game can be seen at CashValleyDaily.com. That is official 5 o'clock start time tomorrow on this. So 1 hour for the people. We will be in the movie show, 4 to 5 with Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com. And that game, by the way, is Ridgeline hosting Logan for the Region 11 rematch. And that's, again, 5 p.m. tomorrow. The rest of the high school football lineup, for those who want to make this part of their Friday, or you have an option to make Saturday as well, Skyview is at Dixie in southern Utah at 4 o'clock tomorrow, 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. That game, the video will be live streaming at CashValleyDaily.com starting at 4. But you can also listen. That will be broadcast starting at 4 tomorrow afternoon on 106.9 The Fan. Instead of Full Court Press, you'll be hearing Skyview again down in southern Utah, kicking off with Dixie at 4 o'clock. Ridgeline hosting Logan, I mentioned that already. That's at 5 o'clock tomorrow here on KVNU. Video streaming at CashValleyDaily.com, and then also as backup 104.5 The Ranch. It's also broadcasting that game. Ridgeline hosting Logan at 5 p.m. tomorrow. And Green Canyon hosting Crimson Cliffs at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. You can watch the Wolves play on Cache Valley Daily, live video stream there at 6 o'clock. And that game will be broadcast here on 100.9 Light FM. So that is Green Canyon hosting Crimson Cliffs, 6 p.m. tomorrow night, broadcast on 100.9 and live streaming video at CashValleyDaily.com. And then finally, if you're looking for even more, Box Elder is at Timpanogos at 4 p.m. That's the Utah 5A football playoffs. Preston is at Shelley at 7 p.m. in the Idaho 4A football playoffs. And then Saturday, if you're looking for something to do, Bear Lake is hosting Coal Valley in the Idaho 2A football playoffs. That's at 1 p.m. over there in Bear Lake Valley. So plenty of high school football if you're looking to put some of that into your weekend. And again, tomorrow here on KVNU, 4 o'clock, you'll hear For the People movie show with Andy Morgan. Then at 5 o'clock, we'll hand the reins over to Al Lewis and crew as the Logan High School game begins. Ridgeline hosting Logan tomorrow at 5 p.m., broadcasting right here on KVNU 610 AM, 102.1 FM, and the video live streaming for that game, again, at CashValleyDaily.com starting at 5. So there you have it. Football playoff lineup for the weekend here on our stations and elsewhere, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:37. The news is brought to you by the Duck Hunter. A 24-year-old Logan man and instructor at Utah State University has been arrested for allegedly sharing child pornography over the internet. Jack M. Flint was booked Wednesday afternoon into the Cache County Jail, where he is temporarily being held without bail pending formal charges. According to an arrest report on September 16th, Logan City police officers began investigating Flint after receiving a cyber tip from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It described how the suspect allegedly used an internet site in which anonymous video and text chats can occur. The tip outlined a chat message apparently sent by Flint to another user. In it, he claimed to be a 17-year-old boy and invited the other individual to join a 14 to 18-year-old Snapchat group by sending a picture of his genitals. Officers obtained a search warrant and seized Flint's cell phone as evidence. Jail records show Flint was booked on 5 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor, a second-degree felony. He will likely be arraigned in First District Court Friday morning. With the Logan municipal election less than a week away, the campaign coffers of some local candidates are running low. Mandatory financial disclosure reports were due October 26th from mayoral candidates Holly Daines and Dee Jones, as well as city council hopefuls Amy Anderson, Keegan Garrity, and Ernesto Lopez. Those reports indicate that Jones' campaign is running in the red, while Daines has less than $100 in her accounts. In the city council race, meantime, candidates Anderson and Garrity are sitting pretty financially, while Lopez has less than $100 to work with. Under Utah election laws, candidates for municipal posts are required to report campaign contributions and expenditures 1 week before scheduled voting on November 2nd, and a final report 1 month after the election. And there isn't anyone better positioned to win the Mountain Division and go to the conference championship than Utah State. At 3-1, the Aggies are one of 2 teams in the division with just 1 loss in conference play. The other is Colorado State, but after losing to USU 26-24 last Friday, the Aggies own the tiebreaker and are the only team that controls its own destiny. Of course, that could all quickly change with another in-conference loss with 4 conference games left for the Aggies. The only way to 100% to guarantee a championship game berth is to win them all. Meantime, next up for Utah State is Hawaii. The Rainbow Warriors come to Logan this Saturday for an afternoon game. It kicks off at 1. We'll be on the air with Game Day to talk to the game. Al Lewis at 12 noon on Saturday. KVNU News Time is 5:40.
Did you know a block dryer vent is a real fire hazard? According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, there are tens of thousands of dryer exhaust duct fires annually, leading to many injuries and death. You should have your dryer hose and the area around it cleaned once a year, and inspect the vent and hose for any blockages at least every 6 months. Don't wait for disaster to strike because your dryer vent is blocked. Give John Henson a call at the Duct Hunter. Call 770-4813 today.
Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
KVNU weather tonight, mostly clear skies, low in the low 30s, and then sunny around 61 tomorrow, partly sunny, and into the low 60s on Saturday. It's been to 61 today. It's 57 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Roof Rescue. Most of us don't think about our roofs until we see shingles on the ground or water drips through the ceiling. Keep your roof in tip-top shape by working with Roof Rescue. They'll take the time to assess, explain, and work out financial obligations with your insurance. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
This election, vote Keegan for Logan. With support from county and state leaders, Keegan Garrity understands the importance of working together while considering all perspectives. Keegan believes that by following smart growth principles, we can keep the city downtown while preserving the open spaces we love. Keegan is willing to engage with anybody, including those with opposing viewpoints. He's the type of guy you could share a Diet Coke with. Vote Keegan, a voice for the people. Paid for by the committee to elect Keegan Garrity.
Well, the leaves are changing, fall is in full swing, and so are the great deals on Ram trucks at Heritage. During Ram Power Days, check out 0% financing for 72 months, available on all new Ram models. Experience for yourself why Ram is the #1 brand loyalty. And right now, we've got discounts up to $5,000 off on Ram, the most awarded light truck in America. Come see why Heritage is the hometown dealer with the biggest deals in Logan, Tremont, and Brigham City.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. Maybe you're not sure how you'll make rent, or you lost your job. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light. Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need.
211, how can I help you?
Call or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected. Get help. A message from United Way and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Bill talked about it a bit there. The candidate financials are up. I've posted a link to the Logan City website portion with those financials on our Facebook page. There are also some for the campaigns in other cities, Providence included. All of those links on the Facebook page. rather than break it down candidate by candidate, if you're curious candidate by candidate, go look. There are zero surprises. The candidates you would expect to have raised the most money and spent the most money are the ones you would expect, and the candidates who raised very little are exactly what you'd expect. Mostly challengers and newcomers to Cache Valley politics. More difficult for them to fundraise. What I will point out here, though, is, and I'm really happy to report this, at least based on the spending so far, the cost, for lack of a better term, of campaigning for office in Cache Valley appears to actually have trended down a bit. This would be the second municipal cycle in a row. And the reason that excites me is that I've been pretty concerned about this lately. There is a trend of nationalization of state legislatures, which I don't think is good. And I don't mean nationalization in that the federal government takes control. That's not possible. I mean nationalization of issues, in that you have more and more lawmakers that are running, basically message bills to further their political careers, but they're issues that aren't really germane to the state. The one that is unfortunately probably going to pop back up here in Utah is this whole critical race theory. A couple lawmakers planning bills to ban that. It isn't even taught. It's a law school thing. It's not even taught in Utah K through 12 schools. It's a blatantly political movement meant to stir people up and get them opening their wallets to donate to candidates and parties. I wish we'd all get better at spotting these things instead of falling for these things, especially our elected officials. Unfortunately, that's going to be coming up during the legislative session. That's just one example. And this isn't specific to red states. It happens in blue states. And it's a dangerous trend, I think, that could run the risk of basically making the entire legislative process in each state absolutely meaningless. Instead of solving state problems with solutions that are fitting for that state, they're debating things that really aren't even germane to that state. More and more and more. That is my same concern when it comes to municipal races. When we saw over the last 10 years or so, the amount of money going up and up and up. And to be absolutely clear, the decrease this year may not end up being a decrease. When all is said and done, we might find out that there was actually an increase in spending and amount of money raised this year for municipal races in Cache Valley. But right now, at least, it looks like a slight decrease, and that's at least something. So I'm kind of excited about that. I hate the idea of, it kind of came up, and it didn't help Senator Wilson, nor did it really hurt his opponent in that primary, former Senator Lal Hilliard. But there was a national term limits group that kind of hijacked the Senate race here in Cache Valley in the primary last year. That's unfortunate. Regardless of how you feel about term limits, which, by the way, they're a bad idea. They sound like a great idea, but they're actually a bad idea. And in the end, they force kind of an undemocratic result, which is at a certain point, you're telling voters they can't vote for the candidate they prefer. Maybe voters like the incumbent, want to give them a third term, but the term limits say only 2. And then on top of that, it doesn't solve the problem it claims to solve. Anyway, conversation for another day. But there is a national group that kind of hijacked the state Senate race, and it wasn't helpful. They were on the side of the challenger in that race, that primary, Senator Chris Wilson, who was successful. So obviously they didn't hurt him that much, his campaign. And they were opposed to Senator Hilliard. Maybe they did hurt his campaign more. I don't think so, because people thankfully pushed back and said, nah, this is a local decision. Get out. We also saw the same thing way back in 2010 with Senator Mike Lee's first campaign. His campaign was hijacked by Freedom Works and a couple of other now defunct national groups, and it didn't help him. In fact, it almost sunk him in the primary. We were almost facing Senator Tim Bridgewater, which I think would have been a huge mistake, considering what we've seen from the guy since. But that almost happened because these national groups hijacked Lee's campaign without his permission, although some say he didn't do enough to discourage them. I don't know. That'd be something you'd have to know from the inside. But to me, it looked like he was trying to discourage them and distance himself from them. But they came in and they were saying crazy stuff. It almost sunk his campaign. That's the tip of the iceberg with problems you can have with these types of nationalization of your local elections and local governing entities. So that's what happens. The more money that gets involved in municipal races, the more you see these national organizations, nonprofits, 501c3s, political action groups, and more, just looking and eyeing these things up. And then eventually, if it's expensive enough to run for office, you have candidates that feel they have no choice but to turn to them and say, man, help me out here. I'm running for office, and I'm just getting beat to death when it comes to the fundraising. My opponent has 20 grand. I've got 200. And so these national orgs say, okay, we'll help you. We'll run some ads for you. We'll even maybe run some flyers, put up some signs and stuff like that. But in exchange, you will do X. That's how it works. And then at a certain point, your local elections are no longer your local elections. So again, this is a positive trend we're seeing in the fundraising and the spending, that things are trending down a little bit. And of course, every time I bring this up, we just got this. Every time we bring this up, someone says, this is why we need publicly funded elections. No. Just like term limits, this is something that sounds great. And I even really agree with the philosophy behind it. The philosophy behind publicly funded elections is that it allows anyone to run for office. So you don't need to be a wealthy attorney, or you don't need to be someone who has made a lot of money in real estate, which is basically 90% of our legislature right now. And that's problematic, right? I get it. That's distasteful at the very least. These aren't necessarily regular Joes making up our citizen legislature. These are people that made a lot of money and can afford to run for office, or know the people who can back them, who can afford to back them. Either way, it's not you and I. And so I get the thinking on that. The publicly funded elections would level the playing field. If everyone's got, say, 15 grand to run for legislature, and they don't have to raise that 15 grand, taxpayers give it to them, you're going to have everybody and their dogs filing and running for the state legislature. I get why that sounds good. But think about this. You're going to have everybody and their dogs running for state legislature. And at a certain point, then you're going to have to say, okay, we're going to come up with an arbitrary limit of the number of people that can file to run for office. Only 5 people can file for each race. That's an arbitrary number. We've got to put a cap on it. Then also you're going to have people that are grossly unqualified. You're going to have people that are extreme. You're going to and you're going to have people that just kind of move in from elsewhere, don't really know the community, but get lucky or run a smart campaign and then get elected to office, and suddenly that is your vote in the state house. So I get it. For this listener that just sent this in, I get it. I understand the philosophy behind this, that money in politics goes nowhere good. It hasn't gone anywhere good. We're seeing it happen all around us. But, and dark money makes it even worse, because now you can have people who can secretly fund things. They don't even have to put their name on it. But publicly funded campaigns, not the solution. Arizona tried it, and it was a mess. Absolute mess. Waste of taxpayer dollars. Complete and total sham of a nomination and a primary process. And in the end, they ended up with a bunch of candidates no one liked. No one. Because basically the people who got lucky and had the wittiest campaign bumper sticker won. Which is already too much of how people win, even here in Utah. So, yeah, I get it. And I've been an advocate of a couple of changes along these lines myself. I think the Attorney General should be appointed. I don't think the Attorney General, the top cop in Utah, I don't think the Attorney General should be anywhere near fundraising for political campaigns. I think that should be an appointed position, which is similar to publicly funded campaign philosophy, I guess. So in places, I think it's appropriate, but no, I think the solution to money in politics is more transparency, Make anyone who donates put their name on it. Get rid of this ability to funnel money through nonprofits so your donation is hidden and then bundled together with thousands of others, and then the nonprofit spends on the candidate. No one knows who backed the nonprofit. Do away with that. If you're going to give, put your name on it. But publicly funded campaigns, taxpayer-funded campaigns, not the solution to this. Anyway, thanks for the tangent, though. Appreciate that. And this is also a friend of mine who texted this in, so he's probably livid right now. But call. Go ahead. Have at me. 753-5868. I think it's a bad idea. Back to the original story here. Financial filings up for Cache Valley candidates. And happy to report you. Again, if you want to see each individual candidate, it's all available. I've linked to it all on our Facebook page. I'll just say no surprises. People who raised the most are the ones you'd expect. People who raised and spent the least, the ones you'd expect. And zero surprises there. But happy to notice at least a slight decrease in how expensive it is to run for office in Cache County over the last at least 2 municipal cycles. So hopefully that trend keeps up. 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
Today's hearing aid technology can improve not only your life, but the lives of the people who care about you. Once again, you'll be able to hear the reason for their laughter and understand conversations. Dr. Paul Danes will customize a hearing improvement program to meet your unique requirements, whatever they are. Call Dr. Danes for an appointment at 753-HERE and let him show you how.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Advanced Heating and AC is honored to be named gold medalist for the best of Northern Utah in the AC HVAC category. They were named silver medalist for place to work and remodeler contractor. They thank you for your votes of confidence in their company. You have many choices when it comes to your home's heating and air conditioning system. Make sure you choose the gold medal winning company, Advanced Heating and AC. Call 752-7272 or stop by their showroom west of DI. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
This is Jeff John, head golf professional at Logan River Golf Course. First off, I'd like to thank all those that voted for us as the #1 golf course in northern Utah. Secondly, I'd like to tell everybody about our fall season pass sale. Buy your season pass now. Use it for the rest of the 2021 season and all of the 2022 season. And thirdly, I'd like to mention our fall golf special. 18 holes of golf with a cart for $42, and then you can play as many holes after that as you can get in before nightfall. $42 for all you can play. Logan River Golf Course. Play fast, play fair, play well.
Friday edition Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show. We have got an absolutely loaded program for you. We'll give you the latest on infrastructure and everything surrounding the Capitol Hill mess that the Democrats find themselves in. Plus, 45 himself will be in the House. Donald Trump scheduled to join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to roll right into the weekend with you. Hope you'll come and hang with us. It's Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show. Don't miss it.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. We don't talk enough about what goes on behind the scenes here, but I have to kind of chuckle at this. And
yeah, we don't want to bore people. It's too boring.
No, this is one I think listeners will get a kick out of. So something that most of you maybe don't know already about Bill. Bill is a news junkie and the news guy here at KVNU, I think.
Yeah.
But Bill,
a member of the team.
But you are ultimately an apolitical person. You avoid politics for personal reasons, and you avoid it entirely. It's just not something you feel is worth your time, and I think that actually makes you great on a news team. But it cracks me up sometimes because I get on these rants, like this last one where only.
Were you ranting? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Only a political junkie even cares what I'm talking about.
That's why all this stuff is thrown around the room.
Publicly funded campaigns and dark money and all. I mean, this is stuff that the average person who just watches the news, listens to the news every day, doesn't really talk that much about. Political junkies, they knew exactly what I was talking about. But for listeners, some behind the scenes here. So when I'm doing this, when I'm on one of these rants, Bill just busies himself here in the studio with other things, you know. He checks his cuticles.
Well, my wife sent me a message on Instagram, so I had to
catches up on his
check on
texts.
that.
And the poor guy, for years now, almost 14, going on 14, has just had to put up with this almost on a daily basis.
Well, I used to have people here that used to pound their fists on the desk. And
yeah, that Tom guy, man. Anger management, Tom. I'm just kidding. Tom's a nice guy if you're out there listening. Tomorrow, For the People movie show, our single-hour show tomorrow. Andy Morgan will be here to talk about Dune. It was opened last weekend, both on HBO Max and in theaters, and it is so far the biggest moneymaker of the year, I predict, which is, we'll talk about why. That's tomorrow at 4 here.